Over the years, I've shown you how to create quite a few different water features using all sorts of different techniques. I thought it was time for something a little different. How about a beautiful water feature with integrated seating that creates an awesome chill out zone? This spot's perfect for our new pond. Nearly level, good sun, sheltered from heavy weather, and in a nice spot for relaxing. The pond I'm using is from Pond Max. It's freestanding, rigid and heavy duty. It's suitable for above or below ground installation. In my case, it's going to be a bit of both. Internally it measures roughly 1.6 metres by 1.1 metres by 60 centimetres deep. It holds around 1,000 litres of water. A couple of things to think about here. The first is that 1,000 litres of water weighs 1 metric tonne. So you need to make sure that whatever you stand your pond on is going to be stable enough to support it without settling or collapsing. Another one is that a lot of councils or other authorities have restrictions about how deep water can be before you need to do things like putting fencing around it. So make sure you check any local regulations before you go putting your pond in. First step is mark out your pond position. I'm just putting it evenly on either side from the hedge at the back, leaving enough room for planting. Mark out with set out paint and then it's time for some spade work. I like to dice the area up so that the grass can easily be removed with minimal digging. Remove to the outside edge of your set out paint. I'm putting all removed material at what will be the rear of the pond, as this will become a planting mound. If you're doing this, just make sure you keep it well clear of your work area. Now, how deep am I excavating? I plan on having my seat at around 450 millimetres at its highest point. This means that at the lowest area of my slight slope, I'll need to remove around 200 millimetres of soil. Once you think you've removed enough, just roughly rake it to level and check the depth in both ends. I've roughly finished my excavation and my profiling, and there's an easy way to check that I've got my depth right. Put the end of a long level at the high side of your excavation and then bring it up to level. Measure from the bottom of the level to the ground at the lowest point, and that's the extra you need to excavate at the high end. In my case, an extra 80 millimetres. If you don't happen to have a long level, it's easy enough. You can just use a small level and put it on top of a straight edge, and then you can use that to get your levels over a longer area. Once you're happy with the depth of your excavation, you can start to bring it to level. If you find you've got a lot of loose material, gravel, rocks, clay, that sort of stuff, it's worth digging a little bit deeper and then backfilling with a coarse paving sand to give yourself a smooth bed that's much easier to work. Use the back of a landscape rake to rough it in, and then use levels to bring it to a perfect finish. It needs to be level end to end, side to side, and then check the diagonals corner to corner to make absolutely sure. You can now slide your pond in, and if you're levelling work, you should find everything is nice and level. Check side to side, end to end, and diagonally. For my corners, I'm using these retain it corner posts. They're designed to accept a standard sleeper. These corner posts won't be at all structural. They're not carrying any load. All they're really doing is securing my cosmetic face around the freestanding pond. So what that means to me is I don't need to dig holes that are quite as big, and I don't need to use as much concrete. But I will need to dig a hole in each corner, and I'll probably need to trim in along the face for each of the boards just to get my height right. Dig the holes at each corner. Check hole size by temporarily positioning your post. You'll need about 5 centimetres of clearance beneath the bottom of your post, and it needs to sit so that the slots are aligned with each pond face. One last check of levels all 3 ways and I can start setting everything in place. I'm using a high strength quickset concrete. A little water in the bottom of the hole, layer of concrete, mix that and a little more water, position the post. The height needs to be the same as the pond top. Add more concrete and water, give it a mix, check levels on all sides, and then repeat for every corner. I need 400 millimetres of clearance from pond lip down, so I'm just removing the extra soil along the face. Measure between the posts in the slots to work out the sleeper lengths for cutting. I'm using a safe Micro Pro treated pine, and I'm giving it a coat or two of a water-based stain in a charcoal shade. Much easier to paint before installing, and then you just touch up once it's in place. Cut to size. Drop in place all round and tap down where needed. Fill all the holes. Any extra spoil can go behind the pond. The top plates are cut with 45-degree ends. I find it easier and more accurate to mark them in position. Before I cut them, I'm just using a shaper to take the sharp edge off the sleepers where they'll be used as seats. Position the front and side seat tops and clamp together. From each side pre-drill and then countersink before securing with a 100mm construction screw from each side. Now I'll position the rear top plate and measure from this for my cuts. This way I know it's going to be a perfect fit. In the middle and one end of the rear plate, I'm housing out to allow for pipes and future wiring or plumbing. Now I can drop this into place. Just checking my position of the 3-join top plates, then mark for the screws that will go down into the face boards. Pre-drill, countersink, and drop in 100mm screws to secure it all together. At this stage I'm not screwing down the rear panel. I'll wait until I've fed through my power and plumbing and my water bowls in place. I like to put a thick layer of pebbles on the base. Now this helps to create a biological zone in the pond and it allows for somewhere for plants to root into securely. Just rinse them before adding so you don't cloud the water. Now I can throw the hose in and leave it running to fill up. My water bowl spillway needed some extra support, so I just used sleeper offcuts to create a stand. With the inlet in the bottom of my bowl, I needed to create a hole through the stand for the plumbing to drop through. The flexible hose is attached to the bottom of my spill bowl, fed through a housed out section in the corner, and then down to the pump that's in the bottom of the pond. Kind of missing one thing though, electricity. I called in my mate Pete from Excite Electrical and he came out and trenched to install an outdoor power point for me. Now the landscaping around the back, I used a mix of bold foliage plants that really accentuate the feel of the water feature. The mound of excess soil gave them all a great height boost too. Then of course, good layer of mulch, and just a couple of months later, absolutely sublime.